Franklin Clinton had not fired a gun in 3 years, and he intended to keep it that way until the night Leonida called his name. He was living quiet outside Los Santos, the kind of quiet that only comes after a man buries every version of himself that used to pull triggers for a living. At 2 a.m. a call came from a Vice City number he had never dialed, a woman's voice warning him that his old money was moving again under his name. By sunrise, he was on a flight he told no one about, chasing an address scrawled on a napkin from a favor a decade old. That address led to a marina, and on the deck stood a woman named Lucia, who looked at him like she already knew his whole life. She told him the money was bait, laid out to pull him back into a game he thought he had walked away from for good. Franklin asked who had set the trap, and Lucia only smiled, saying the answer was standing a few docks away, watching them right now. He spun fast, instinct sharpening for the first time in years, but there was nothing there except an empty slip and the sound of water against the hull. That was the moment Franklin understood this city did not announce its threats. It let you feel them first and explain later. Her partner Jason arrived tense and watchful, and the moment Franklin recited the account number, Jason's face changed completely. It matched a shell company he and Lucia had been quietly funding for over a year, meaning someone had linked Franklin's dead identity to their live operation on purpose. That night, digging through old contacts, Franklin mentioned a man named Lester, and Lucia's face shifted because someone using that name had approached her months earlier with a job. Lester had been dead for years, which meant either a ghost had returned or someone was wearing his name like a mask. They decided to trace the money themselves before it could trace them, following the shell account through 3 cutout banks toward a storage unit in Vice Beach. Following the money led them to a storage unit holding a single laptop already powered on, streaming a live feed of the very room they stood in. A message typed itself across the screen. "You found the bait. Now let's see if you're smart enough to survive the hook." Lucia found the hidden camera inside a smoke detector, and Franklin felt a fear he thought he had left behind years ago in Los Santos. Old surveillance footage later revealed a man with a scarred jaw in the background of a rival deal, a scar Franklin recognized instantly because he had put it there himself. The man was Deacon, a former partner Franklin believed he had killed in a rooftop fight that never actually produced a body. If Deacon was alive, this was never about money. It was patient, engineered revenge built to drag Franklin straight into Jason and Lucia's world. Lucia asked the question none of them wanted to say out loud: what Deacon actually wanted from all 3 of them right now. That night, Franklin's phone buzzed again with a photograph of the 3 of them standing in that exact room, time-stamped minutes earlier, ending with the words "Part 2 starts when I say it does." They fled the condo before dawn, tracing property records to a warehouse registered under a shell called Vance Holdings. For 20 minutes, they watched from the shadows as 2 men loaded unmarked crates with a discipline that only comes from doing the same job many times before. Watching from the shadows, Franklin recognized the loading technique the crew used, a method he himself had taught someone years before loyalty stopped meaning anything permanent. Realization hit him hard. Deacon had not just survived, he had built an entire crew trained on Franklin's own methods, turning his past into a weapon against his present. Floodlights snapped on, erasing their cover, and Deacon stepped into the light himself, older, sharper, offering Franklin a choice instead of a bullet. He claimed the money Franklin thought he recovered that night had actually been rerouted for years into the very shell company funding Jason and Lucia's entire empire. Every dollar they had built their rise on had come from Deacon's stolen fortune, without either of them ever knowing it. Deacon gave them until sunrise to decide who would pay the debt back, then vanished the moment the floodlight cut out. Before they could regroup, a wire transfer landed directly in Lucia's account from Vance Holdings, a down payment note calling them family business now, whether they agreed or not. Digging deeper, they learned Vance Holdings was only a front for something larger, a network tied to one of Vice City's oldest smuggling families, Solano Maritime. Deacon was not acting alone anymore. He answered to people who did not tolerate loose ends, and Franklin realized the trap had 2 owners, not one. A lookout's warning sent them running from the condo just as black SUVs arrived, and across the street they watched Lucia's forgotten laptop get carried out in a stranger's hand. With no way to stay invisible anymore, Franklin proposed turning Deacon's own game against him, planting doctored records to convince Solano that Deacon had been the one skimming money all along. They leaked the false trail straight into Solano's private channels, then waited through a silence heavier than any threat Deacon had made. Word finally came back that Solano was furious, and Deacon had been summoned to answer for money he never actually stole, buying the 3 of them precious breathing room. As the sun cleared the skyline, Lucia's phone buzzed one last time, not from Deacon or Solano, but from a number registered entrusted years ago to Lester. He gave them an address on the edge of the Everglades and told them to come alone before Solano finished dealing with Deacon for good. He explained everything from a hidden shack in the Everglades. He had faked his own disappearance the moment he learned Deacon was secretly working for Solano all along. The money Franklin thought he recovered years ago had been a decoy, a fraction of a larger fortune Lester had hidden away for exactly this moment. Lester wanted help exposing Solano's entire network before Solano erased everyone connected to Vance Holdings, including Jason and Lucia. He handed over a hard drive of financial records powerful enough to bring down an empire if it reached the right hands in time. Lucia sent it to a federal contact she had cultivated quietly for a year, someone already circling Solano without enough proof to move. Confirmation came back fast. Investigators had been building a case for months and needed exactly this evidence to finish it. Lester warned the danger was not over, because once Solano felt federal eyes closing in, they would move fast and violent to erase every trace of the leak. 2 days later, federal raids hit 3 Solano-connected warehouses across Vice City, and the name Vance Holdings finally surfaced in headlines Jason and Lucia had feared their entire careers. Deacon vanished again. No theatrical reveal this time, just the same silence he had used to disappear the first time around. Jason and Lucia walked away with their names untouched, quietly restructuring their operation into something Solano could never claim again. Jason, still shaken from learning his empire had been built on stolen money, quietly admitted he wanted out, the same way Franklin once wanted out of everything. Franklin stood back on that same marina where it all began, watching the sunrise paint the water gold, believing for a moment that his quiet life might still be possible. He knew better than to trust it completely, because peace in a city like this was only ever borrowed on someone else's schedule. As he turned to leave, the untraceable phone Lester had given him buzzed once more in his pocket, a final message glowing on the screen. "Welcome to the family business, Franklin," permanently this time.